Hi Scorpio, happy birthday and welcome back to the Astrology 33 channel. This is your November 2021 tarot reading. Thank you to those of you who like, viewed, shared, subscribed, and donated to the channel. I appreciate all of that. For those of you new to the channel, as far as what we have in front of us, it's a Celt crossbred as always, and also with an Oracle card and a Mudra card for you guys. We're actually going to start the reading off by rolling those astrology dice we have in front of us to get an idea of where your focus will be as far as that goes. Alright, so we have 8. That's the 8th house. For you guys, that's Gemini, and you guys are actually the natural rulers of the 8th house. We have Pluto, and that's actually your ruling planet, and that's actually in your 3rd house communication. Recently went direct. And speaking of Pluto and the 3rd house communication, we have Capricorn here, so could definitely be some significance around your communication this month. Alright, so all that out of the way, we'll get started with the main spread. Alright, main situation position, we have the 5 of Wands. So this is actually in Leo energy, which for you guys is your 10th house of career and social status. And this just looks like a situation where there's people coming with all different approaches toward a certain situation, and there's not really any agreement on which way is the best way, right? Everyone seems to feel like their approach is the best approach. They're insistent on that, and then that's where we see the conflict could arise, right? So it could be as simple as just saying in your workplace, maybe you're working on some kind of a group project, everyone has their own idea about the best way to approach it, but no one's trying to come to agreement in a way where you could, incorporate some of the best parts of each person's idea and build it into one cohesive unit, you know what I mean? So it could just be one of those things that you're dealing with. For others of you, it could just be saying that maybe your career environment in general is a very competitive environment, so could just be pointing to that too. In the challenger obstacle position, we have the 5 of Swords, which is Aquarius energy. So interesting to see basically the opposite energies. The first 10 degrees of Leo there, first 10 degrees of Aquarius here. So you also might be feeling a push-pull dynamic in your lives too, where maybe you have a lot of demands in your career sector, but also your family might be putting a lot of demands on you too, right? If you guys live in the States, for example, I know a lot of my viewers do. We're going to be entering into the holiday season in November, so that could elevate stress for a lot of people. So it could be as simple as that, right? Just a super generic example for those of you who celebrate Thanksgiving, right? Let's say that you have a lot of work projects that need to get done in November, and you tell your parents, hey, I'm not going to be able to come home for Thanksgiving this year, right? And that becomes this whole big dramatic ordeal, right? So it could just be as simple as that. I don't necessarily see it's going to be a major issue, but I do see that you're going to feel that push-pull dynamic between your home family life and your career sector this month. All right, in the foundation position, we have the 3 of Wands, which is Aries energy, and the Page of Cups. So, seeing these two energies here, for some of you, could just be saying that maybe you might have recently been elevated in your career to maybe you're like a boss or a manager of some kind now. And this could just be you guys kind of having that stance of people come along to you with ideas, right? And you're like, nope, that's not good enough. Come back with something better, right? So it could just be one of those things where you're really kind of digging your feet in around your work environment. That's just the first thing that came to mind, just based on what we were just talking about there. For others of you, this could just be saying that maybe you're holding back on something for the time being because you know that it's not quite right yet, right? So maybe you're working on some kind of creative project, for example, and you're like, okay, it's getting there, but it's not quite where I want it to be, right? So you could just be holding back on that for the time being. All right, and the past position, we have the 10 of Wands. So this is Sagittarius energy here. And to me, this is an indicator that says that you have put in a lot of work, right? So maybe now maybe that's part of where the conflict is coming from. You might have felt like you did put in a lot of work and now you're waiting for others to step up and do their part, right? So, like I said, if we just look at that as a timeline in the past saying that you did put in a lot of work and maybe even elevated in your job because of that. And now you're expecting to see others put in the same level of work that you put in when you were in their position, right? Could just be as simple as that. But this representing the 2nd house of finances for you guys too could just be saying that you've really been working hard toward a goal, building up your finances. But yeah, at the very least, this does show me that whatever position you're in now, you have put in the work. the present position, we have the Four of Swords, Libra energy, Queen of Cups, Cancer energy, and Six of Swords, Aquarius energy. So it's interesting to see the 4 and the 6 here, because we see the 5, of course, that came up in the challenge position. So I feel like this is saying for a lot of you, whatever this conflict may be, looks like you actually are going to take the time to actually heal, be a bit reflective, try to look at things from a higher perspective, given that Cancer energy for you guys is 9th house energy too. And for the majority of you, I feel like this is saying that you're not even going to engage in that type of dynamic, right? If this is, like I said, mentioning that family scenario too, looks like it's saying that even if you feel like you could spew some venom right back at them if they're being obnoxious, I feel like this is saying that even with that, you're going to, take a little bit of time and maybe take a moment to reflect and say, all right, I get where they're coming from, right? Like they might mean well, but they're just coming across obnoxious with the way they're approaching it, right? Because they're not in your shoes, understanding that, hey, yeah, ideally I wouldn't want to be dealing with this craziness at work, but I have to do it. But, from their perspective, it's just, oh, you're not coming home for the holidays. You know what I mean? So it could be one of those things where you're trying to look at things from a higher perspective, take a more measured approach toward it. Let's see what else. And for others of you, this could just be saying if there's just something you've been holding on to for a long time too, with that 4th house energy, with that Mercury retrograde that started in these degrees, now that it's actually wrapping up, it could just be saying that now you might be seeing things from a higher perspective, and because of that, you're actually able to let things go in a much more healthy manner. All right, in the near future position, we have the Knight of Swords. So this is Gemini energy here, which for you guys is your 8th house, and we also saw the 8 come up in the dice too. But really what I'm seeing with this, I feel like this is pointing more to all of the energy you guys are going to have in your sign in November. Mercury's going to be there most of the month, clearing its shadow. Mars is going to be in your sign all of November. The sun's going to be there, obviously, for the first few weeks. So you guys are probably going to feel really energized, and in a way that might even be part of what's causing the issue, right? Where you might just have all that energy right now. I think we were talking last month where you guys might have had a lot of ideas flowing, but you weren't necessarily ready to bring them out, right? Because all that energy was in your 12th house. So it could just be as simple as that, saying that now when you get all that energy in your sign, you're going to be ready to roll, right? But people in your environment might not be at that pace. So that might be something to keep in mind too, which is to say, okay, you're getting all kinds of energized, whereas other people still might be pulling themselves out of the retrograde fog and getting ready for eclipse season, right? So it could just be as simple as that. You might just be full of energy, all the ideas you wanted to put into place, now you're actually ready to do them, but people in your environment just might not be moving at the same speed. So, you might ruffle some feathers. So, of course, with all the energy, you might be fine to take things on by yourself anyway, but I feel like that could be what this is primarily pointing to, which is to say you're going to be all kinds of energized, people around you maybe not so much. All right, the position of your influence in the situation, we have the Hierophant. So this is actually the major arcana card for Taurus, which is your opposite sign. To me, this could just be saying that you're, again, like I said, a bit set in your ways too, where you want things done a certain way. You might even be looking at things from a much more traditional view this month too. So I haven't really touched on the relationship dynamic yet as far as romantic relationships, because I didn't really pick up on it in that way. But given that this represents your opposite sign, let's say this could be one of those things where if there is some conflict in a romantic relationship, it could just be one of those things where even if you're not normally this way, this month you might lean a little bit more toward like traditional gender roles, let's say, right? So you just have this expectation that, oh, this person does this, the other person's supposed to do that. So you could just be a bit rigid in that regard this month. And for some of you, I remember you were getting a justice card in this position a lot of times too. So for some of you, this could just be saying that you might be loosening up on that perspective and looking at things from a higher perspective, which I saw there as well. And instead of feeling like, okay, this has to play out right before my eyes, it could just be one of those things where you might just be leaving it up to a higher power as well, if it's more of a karmic thing. All right, in the environment position, we have the 8 of Cups. So this is Pisces energy here. And again, I'm kind of getting that same vibe again, which is to say, I feel like you guys are going to have all kinds of energy with what's going through your sign that we already covered. Whereas others might be feeling a bit more sluggish, right? So you might have all these ideas you're ready to roll. Others just might not be there quite yet. So, again, like I mentioned, I feel like you might ruffle some feathers this month. So this could represent others in your environment possibly walking away because they feel like you're, ironically, the word that came to mind was tyrant, but I don't even really feel like it's going to be that. It's just that the energy levels between you and others might be so off that they might perceive it that way. And at the time of recording this, we basically are just wrapping up the Mercury retrograde, and it's going to be in shadow for a bit. So it could just be as simple as that, which is to say, earlier on, you might come across that way, but maybe once it clears its shadow, you might come across a little bit better, especially with Venus moving through your third house communication. But yeah, I feel like this is saying there is the potential that some people just might be like, all right, Scorpio's a bit over the top right now, and they might just walk away from situations. For some, this can represent you as well, right? Where if you feel like others aren't putting in the level of effort that you have, right? Like I said, with that 10 of wands in the past position. So looks like there could definitely be a disconnect in energies this month between you and others. All right, in the hopes or fears position, we have the moon and the 8 of swords. So for some of you, this could just be saying that maybe you're hoping to be able to trust your intuition as opposed to this being more of a fear type energy, and maybe you might have felt even disconnected from your intuition for a bit. Again, like I said, all that stuff jumping into your sign just might have you really fueled, but it might even be overcharging you a little bit, right? To where you're like, okay, am I seeing things clearly, right? So you might have a little bit of self-doubt. And like I said, I don't really think that it's that you're not seeing things clearly for sure. It's just that you're going to have so much of a spark for a lot of you. I feel that you're not going to understand that other people aren't there too, right? So it could just be one of those things, like a super generic example. You might feel that energy shift and you're like, oh, all right, thank God the retrograde energy's over. I feel so much better now, right? And it's like, okay, yeah, you might think that collectively, and then that would be the case. But for you, it's yes, the retrograde energy wrapped up, but you also have the Sun, Mars, and Mercury in your sign, right? So that adds to it. So it amplifies that effect even more. Whereas for other people, they're not really going to have that same dynamic going for them. So it could just be one of those things. And for some of you, it might even cause a little bit of doubt too, right? With the 8 of Swords energy, to where you might second guess yourselves a little bit. So yeah, however weird it sounds, it doesn't look like this is going to be like a major theme. I feel like it's more of a temporary thing, but it is something that you should have on your radar at the very least. All right, and in the outcome position, we have the Knight of Cups in reverse and the 3 of Pentacles in reverse. So, Knight of Cups in the upright will represent coming forward with an offer, and the 3 of Pentacles, to me, that energy would point to a collaborative effort too. So to see both of these in reverse, like I said, however, it's you guys who are looking at something, because if we think about that Page of Cups energy I mentioned with the 3 of Wands, which is to say, for some of you, might be you realizing that there's something that you're working on that you're not quite ready to put out there yet. That could represent you guys saying, like, okay, you know what, I'm not going to do this just yet. For others of you, like I said, it could be as simple as you might ruffle some feathers, and others might not want to collaborate with you this month. Like, okay, Scorpio's a bit over the top. So, like I said, just look out for that. I don't think it's going to cause any permanent damage, but it could just be one of those things where you might have to wait until the energy's a bit more settled with others, and then you're able to work together more comfortably. Let's see if anything else comes to mind with this. Yeah, if nothing else, this could also just be pointing to what I was saying too, which is the fact that you guys will have Venus moving through your third house communication, which is Capricorn. So that might help soften the blow a little bit if you feel like there is a bit of a disconnect with communication between you and others, but that's what I'm seeing there. All right, and bottom of the deck, we have the Wheel of Fortune. So with all this going on, this is definitely another indicator and a good sign to me that it's not really going to cause irreparable damage, but I do feel like it is one of those things that at least temporarily you might feel like there's a definite disconnect in the energy levels between you and others in your environment. But it could just be pointing to what I was saying. All of that energy moving into your sign is an indicator that you should be taking action, but this might not be the best month to necessarily depend on and rely on cooperation from others. That's probably the best way to say it. All right. Moving on to your oracle card, we have building blocks. There's the artwork, and the number is 28. Okay, it says strong foundations, a beautiful work in progress. The oracle's message: you have everything you need to cultivate an extraordinary life. This is a time when your focus needs to be on the foundations you build upon. Your work, your relationships, and your very being are underwritten by your values, ethics, morals, and core beliefs. Are they still true for you? Will they stand the test of time and serve as the solid grounding upon which you construct your life? Now you are making changes that will affect everything in a positive way. Your destiny is truly a remarkable and beautiful design. So, pretty positive message there, and interesting when it was mentioning the thing about ethics, morals, core beliefs. That made me think of the fact that you guys have the Hierophant in your position this month, so it could be one of those things that you're just going to be reviewing all that. All right, the relationship message says, when you see this card, know that you are attracting new relationships into your life and solidifying the ones you already have by building them on the foundations of honesty, humility, clear communication, and a genuine desire to know one another. You are moving toward laying the groundwork for a relationship with a firm footing that will ensure it can withstand any storm. Long-standing relationships are also repaired and strengthened. You and the other person are stronger, wiser, and more powerful together than apart. So, pretty positive message there. Like I said, I really didn't get much of a one-to-one relationship vibe there in general, but I did mention the way that could be playing out for you guys this month, so hopefully that resonated. And the prosperity message says you have everything you need to turn iron into gold in the alchemical process of creating the prosperous life you desire. Now is the time to build on the strong foundation you have already laid for your prosperity. Keep in mind that these building blocks are imbued with the sparkling energy of your intentions. Own your dream and remember that you always have more than enough and you always are enough, so abundance is ever present. Your creativity is divinely inspired and the design for your life is taking shape in service to the world. You are meant for success. So, pretty positive message there too. And I will say another thing that came to mind is reading that message made me think of the Three of Wands with the Page of Cups energy again, which another way that could be playing out too could just be saying that understand that, okay, there might be some bumps in the road, right, with the building blocks energy, and we mentioned how there could be some conflict and differences in energy levels. So the Three of Wands with the Page of Cups could just be saying to have a little bit of patience too, right? Like, okay, you might have to get over this a little bit of a rough patch, but understand that it's laying a strong foundation, and you just might have to be a little bit patient to see it actually unfold. So hopefully that resonated with you. And lastly, we have Mudra for you guys. So this is your Mudra this month. It's the Anahata Chakra Mudra. Keyword for it is compassion. And there's the info on it if you want to pause it or take a screenshot to read what it has to say. But under benefits, it says activates Anahata Chakra, improves the health of the heart, lungs, and breast, regulates breathing, expands feelings of compassion and love, increases healing abilities. So if that sounds like a mudra you think will be beneficial for you guys, we'll put it in the description video as always. Once again, happy birthday, and I'll see you guys next month. All right, bye.